In this episode, we're unlocking a designer's ultimate creative tool, constraints. You're listening to the Angry Designer Podcast, where we help frustrated graphic designers crush the industry bull and share what it takes to charge what you're worth and build badass, rewarding careers. Have you ever dreaded working on a project because it had so many damn limitations that it only ended up being some of the best work that you've ever frickin' created? Turns out constraints aren't necessarily the enemy of creativity. They might actually be a designer's secret weapon. In this episode, we're unlocking one of the biggest secrets to better design: constraints. That's right, the thing that designers love to hate on. Tight budgets, limited tools, limited colors, brand guidelines. This stuff might actually be your best friend. We're going to talk about why too many choices are actually killing your creativity, not necessarily helping it, and how the best designers and best agencies use limitations to create their most iconic work. And we're going to leave you off with 8 powerful ways that you can apply artificial constraints to push your creativity further than ever before. Oh, and don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, Anger Management for Designers. It's in our profile, it's in our website, and every week we send you stories, we talk about strategies, and we send you no BS advice without trying to sell you anything, okay? So this newsletter is your guide to thriving in the design world and getting paid what you're worth. So whether you're sipping on coffee, stuck in traffic, or knee-deep in a project, strap in because we're about to prove why less is actually more. Hello, Sean.
Hi. A good day, Massimo.
A good day, sir. How are you? What are we drinking today, monsieur?
Long Branch.
I don't know if I like this smell. This
sounds like something like Kevin Costner would drink. Right?
Well, there's somebody else here. Who's this? Eddie Russell. Oh, I really should have looked into who Eddie Russell is. Eddie, I'm sorry, man. I'll get you next time. But this is from our awesome Wild Turkey brand. This is Long Branch.
Wild Turkey?
This is Wild Turkey, right? Which I know, right? And so now this is, I guess, Long Branch. This is something special. I haven't seen it before, but it does say it's expertly crafted. So, okay. I mean, hey, we'll expertly try it, won't we?
Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Smells good. Looks good. Oh, wow. That's a treat.
Tasty.
Is it sweet? Okay, that's my first sip.
Sweet.
My first, I didn't get over sweet.
No.
I can definitely taste the oak. First sip.
Yep.
It's very smooth. Again, not surprised. Wild Turkey. And I'm feeling a nice warmth.
Yeah, it feels nice going down.
It's not rough. Okay, I'm scared that the second sip might be a little sweet, but let's try this again. That was a nice treat though.
It is sweet. Yeah. But it's not bad.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I can taste that oak. It's not sweet like the last stuff we had.
No.
That stuff
not
is
like that.
Sweet.
There's a bite to it. And
yes.
There's body.
It is. You know what? And it's just enough of this American oak flavor. Honestly, this is delicious.
Yes. I like that.
I was trying to finish off. Remember that Gold Bar stuff?
Yes. Yep.
And then we had the black, and I thought the black was like the best Gold Bar tasting thing I've ever had. Well, by the time I finished the bottle, it was too sweet.
Oh, yes.
It just really kind of, glass after glass, after having a little bit every night, here, there.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if I'd have that effect with this one. I'm glad that one was like a limited edition, but this one is actually, it tastes delicious.
Well, I don't think you're supposed to have 5 or 6.
A night. Sean, you don't have 4 kids.
That's a good point. Yes, this is true. You've heard it.
That's right. So lots of exciting, crazy shit happened this week.
Yes.
Right? Just in the world. I don't know if anybody heard about, obviously this new AI app out of nowhere. DeepSeek.
DeepSeek.
Boom. Popped out like that.
Now all those reels and memes make sense.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes,
the whole world's gone crazy over this.
Yeah.
And I mean, it tanked, the stock market, right?
Oh,
S&P jumped. There was just news out. Everybody was scared. And it's just like, well, what the hell's the big deal about it, right? Because wouldn't it just be another competing AI?
Yep.
And guys, trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. Okay, I am. I really am. But
competition is good.
Competition, sure, that's fine, right? But okay, DeepSeek versus AI.
Okay. Or sorry, DeepSeek versus OpenAI.
OpenAI.
Okay.
Right.
So OpenAI has, I think to date, gotten about $18 billion worth of investment. Okay. Billion. 18. Okay. To build a fucking product. Like we're talking like, Facebook and Instagram and all those combined in their early round stages had nowhere near even a fraction of this. Okay. So they had this. Okay. They had unlimited fucking resources. OpenAI did, right? It was like hot shots, and they got the smartest people all over the fucking place come together. Okay. Cost billions. They had to use the top industry chips, right? And they built a really fucking good product. Okay. Right. Again, ChatGPT.
Amazing.
When that shit came out, right? It was unreal what it could do and how many and it really did put the scare in everybody about AI, and it changed the world, right? And cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But think about it. $18 billion. They had an open runway. They had little to no competition, right? Fucking no big deal, right? Yeah. It was just like, I'm not going to even put an analogy here, okay? The reason why there's a lot of piss off lately is out comes DeepSeek. Out of fucking nowhere.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
They used open source material that they found online.
Oh, you mean this is not billions and billions of dollars?
Oh, this gets worse, okay? Their budget was $6 million. Okay. They were only a side project within a company.
What?
Okay. So again, DeepSeek, and it is a China company. It came from China, right? Yeah. So because of that, there was regulations. So they couldn't use the top of the line chips, right? Because they're not allowed in China because there's sanctions, and I guess, NVIDIA is not allowed to sell this top of the line chip that OpenAI uses, right, in China. So, they had to use these substandard chips, in comparison.
Right.
Okay. A team of 20 people. Okay. I think it was like 20 people, right? And so they had all these fucking limitations. Okay.
Wow.
And they were able to, in 6 fucking months, put together DeepSeek, which, okay, you can argue, is it as good? Is it not as good? Let's just say it's on par for 98% of how everybody uses AI. Okay. Some people say it's even surpassed chat when it came out, and which is the big scare.
Yeah.
But they did this with a fraction of what OpenAI. And so this is what all the fucking craziness has been about all week, right? It's just unbelievable because again, OpenAI had unlimited budgets. There was no reason for them to find
no guardrails, no nothing.
No, right. Yeah. And so they were like, hey, you know what? This is the way we're going to do it. And we're just going to, throw more fire on this, right? We're just going to keep going, and that's all they did. They didn't look to innovate. They were already innovating in their opinion because they created this, right? There was no reason for them to look for more efficient ways to run it.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's probably they're going back and forth all over the map kind of thing. There's no straight line, direct path.
So, and again, right? And it was a pig to operate, which has been the challenge for this company, which is why they're building these disgustingly large data centers. And now here you have this company that has constraints, okay, and they had to get crafty, they had to get innovative, so again, where OpenAI was just throwing more horsepower at it, more money, we need more billions of dollars to get this going, this other company was being more efficient.
Wow.
Okay. And I
working with less.
Right. And I think that's the scare right now, because again, the big discussion is, is NVIDIA overpriced? Do we really need this much horsepower? Do we really? And it's true, right? I mean, again, the moral of the story here is that this company, DeepSeek, okay, with the constraints it had, forced them to be innovative. Okay. It forced them to go to a whole new level and think outside the box, but inside
of the constraints that they have.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. And that's what happened, right? It forced them to get creative. And I was like, dude, this is just the most brilliant fucking idea because, how this, let's put it this way, without limitations, there's no reason for you to explore better ways of doing things. Okay.
Yeah.
OpenAI, for all we know, and I'm not a tech guy, but it's big, it's bloated, it's like a pig on wheels. And all they're doing is they're trying to force more people to push that pig along, and they're giving it more money and more, but it's still a pig on wheels because there's no reason for them to try to innovate and fix and this and that because they had fucking $18 billion given to them.
You could never run out of money with that.
No, well, apparently they do because that's not the first time they got investment. This is like the third or fourth round. So this is the ridiculous part about this, right? So it's like, without these kind of limitations, there's no reason for companies like this to explore new ways of doing things, better ways of doing things, right? Which is why this other company out of nowhere shocked the whole fucking world.
Wow.
And I think that this translates perfectly to design.
Right.
Okay. And I can't stress this enough. Okay. Because design works in the exact same way as this did.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, again, okay. So it seems like designers, and I don't know if it's just because designers by nature, we complain a lot over everything.
What?
Right? I don't know. But I mean, the reality is designers hate limitations.
Do they?
Well, they complain about it.
Okay.
Oh, did you see the fucking brand standards guide that they gave us?
Oh
my God. They're telling us that they want us to use people in a 55 to 65 demographic. Holy shit.
Has to be this font and this font, these three colors. Oh no.
Right? But that's exactly it.
Right.
Okay. Designers, their minds tend to go to this, right? There is this illusion that, if we had more resources, more available to us, it automatically goes to a better end result.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And we've often realized that's completely the opposite.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
It's completely, people, they're scared. Designers are scared that if they have fewer options, it basically reduces the creativity.
They're constricted.
Yes, right. Which means, oh my God, the designs are going to definitely be worse because I can only use people between the 55 to 65 or 70 demographic.
Right.
What could I possibly do with that? I don't
Can't
know.
work with this.
I don't know why I chose 55 to 70-year-olds. I'm sorry, guys.
He's looking right at me saying that too.
You whippersnapper. That's amazing. But it's
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like, it seems like there's this fear, this innate fear that it's like the fewer options leads to, a less result.
Right.
Do you think it's because they think that they're going to struggle to adapt to like this new way of thinking? Like, I mean, how can I put this? It's like all of a sudden I have all these constraints put on me and now I got to adapt my way of design, my way of thinking to these limits.
Right. Yes. It's somebody else came up with this. They're kind of rail against that. It's not their idea. Maybe. I don't know. There's a fear, right? And then again, it's like when you have to work on somebody else's brand guide, like everybody always complains about that, right? But there is again, it's like, it's because you feel like you can't express your own creative freedom. I had a kid, and I'm still going to meet with this guy, but like he's a first year college kid and he's switching degrees from architecture to graphic design. Oh.
And he told me that the reason why he wanted to switch from architecture to graphic design, is because the architecture course didn't allow him to express his creativity as he would.
The architecture course didn't?
So I'm like, dude, you have no idea what the graphic design course is going to, this world, you're not going to be able to express your own creativity the way you want.
Yeah.
But again, this kind of, dovetails back into this idea that there is this perception that, you need a world of options and you need like limited freedom and limited constraints in order to design.
Yeah, that seems kind of odd to me. I mean, I've seen people like Christy Campbell. She's amazing with her brand guidelines. They look as creative as hell. Like there's rules in there.
Of course there's rules in there.
It's also, she's just done such an amazing job at the creativity that within these boundaries.
Absolutely. And there has to be, though, in my opinion.
You can't just go all wild because then there's no cohesive look.
Well, exactly, right? Especially for brands, right? But I mean, again, is it with experience? Is it with age or being naive that it's like if you have these guardrails, they're actually limitations for this kind of thing. And I think that's the worry that I'm getting from a lot of creatives when they think this way, right?
Yeah.
That where, in all honesty, it's like where designers think that limitations
are obstacles.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Instead of obstacles, they're just like in this situation with DeepSeek.
Yeah.
It's more like an opportunity, not an obstacle. Okay. But an
Yeah.
opportunity for innovation, innovative thinking,
Yes.
for new opportunities, for being creative, right? Like, instead of sitting there thinking, oh, if I only had more budget, I could do this,
Yeah.
right? Or if I only had more time, I could do that, right?
Yeah.
If the client would only lay off, I could do more creative freedom.
Yes.
But, I kind of find that that's actually has the reverse effect
Yeah.
in our space, in my personal opinion.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. I would agree with that.
It's like a paradox.
Yes.
It's like a paradox
there you
of
go.
choice.
Right.
Because although you'd think that having a world of option, a world of
Is
creativity
the best thing.
You'd think so.
Yes.
Right. But
Yes.
honestly, it's like that's like a client saying, I'm sorry, his brief is you're the boss.
Do whatever.
You're the creative.
Yeah.
You come up with the idea.
Yes.
And again, it's like you're the expert. You're the creative guy here. Hey, I don't have any suggestions.
Yeah.
We just need to get more customers in the door, and I need an ad.
Yeah.
So go to it.
Exactly. That is terrifying. Who wants that? No one wants that.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and this is why I go back to saying that designers are, we just complain for the sake of complaining, because oftentimes that's the worst thing that could, you get more options. It doesn't lead to better decisions.
Nope.
It leads to worse decisions,
Yes.
right? And exactly to the point about OpenAI, right?
Mm.
They probably didn't think through how can we make this more efficient. All they were thinking is one thing: better AI,
Yeah.
better
Get it done.
chatbot, better this, but
Yeah.
nobody was thinking about efficiency. Do you know, and not to totally get off topic, but okay,
Mm.
you hear these cars, right? Like, V8s with a 5-liter, engine, 5.7-liter Hemi, right? And everybody's like, big motors, big motors.
Yeah.
Do you know Formula One cars
Yeah.
have a 1.6-liter engine?
No way.
They do.
Oh my God.
And I know, I hope I didn't lose anybody on that one, but I mean, it's true. And so, because again, there was limitations
Yes.
into what they could do, what they could build, how these engines work. And so they make them so fucking efficient, pushing out like 1,000 horsepower with something a fraction of that, where, you get these other cars that have these giant engines.
Yeah.
And it's just like, again, it's like that whole pig idea of just throwing more horsepower behind it.
Yes, there you go. That is a great analogy.
I honestly, I think if designers have a world of freedom to them, right, it starts creating this whole decision fatigue. You start getting tired. You're like, because you start, this is where you start running into, I have too many ideas. I have too many concepts.
Yes.
I like this idea, but I like this idea. But none of them are the right idea.
Right.
And I think it's because there's not enough constraints on the project brief.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this is true. And so do you think that DeepSeek kind of used chat as their brand guideline?
Oh,
Perhaps?
like maybe in the sense of what to do.
They did this, so we're going to avoid that by doing this kind of narrow.
I mean,
But could, like-
possibly in the sense of how they win it. But I mean, they did. There was no secret that they used open source technology
Right.
online, right?
Right.
And yeah, maybe, and there's some, they could have saved millions of dollars by finding stuff already online,
Mm-hmm.
but $17.8 billion savings? Like,
Yeah,
that's a
right.
whole other thing
That's a big-
altogether, right?
Yeah, that's a big deal of savings. Oh my God.
But again, it's like, this kind of goes back to the whole idea that I think designers need to come to terms with the fact that they need constraints
Mhm.
to get to their best work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think I'm learning through all this whole what happened this week to DeepSeek. And I realized it myself.
Yeah.
Right. Perfect example is the project I saw you working on that logo, and I was like, hey, guess what, dude? That's due tomorrow, actually.
Yes. And after I panicked.
Right? After you panicked, you cranked it out 90 minutes. You made the right changes. And I was like, done. Good. But if I would have gave you some more time or whatever, you would have took that.
Absolutely. I think you even joked like that, is if this was due Friday, you just put it away.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
right?
true. Yeah.
So it's true. So
Yes.
I think this is where I think, designers actually need to live within constraints a little bit better, right?
Yes.
Fewer choices,
Yeah.
right? Fewer choices lead to more innovative problem solving.
Yes.
And again, designers thrive on that. So if you have an open market and everything is the way you want it to, right?
Mm.
I can't imagine that leads to a better end product ever,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, you're right. In that kind of, and that's a time constraint. That's not budgetary or anything.
Fair
Kinda
enough,
like that.
but it's a constraint.
It's still a constraint, and that is definitely crucial to what we do.
Yeah.
You can't have like, and I don't know what open.
You can't have it all.
Yeah, I don't know what OpenAI's timeline was, whether it was, open or whether they had a certain timeline to achieve, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely need that. And like you said with that story about the logo.
Yeah.
Once I found out all the other shit that I was thinking I was going to do, out the window. I'm going to focus on what this logo is, and I'm going to tweak what I have, and then
get it out, as you needed to, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and
it
right.
still worked.
Oh, it absolutely did,
exactly.
right? And again, it was a time constraint when that came. And there were so many other constraints, which we'll talk about a little bit later,
right?
Which we will.
Yeah.
But I think when you look at how designers function, right? The worst thing you can do is give a designer a blank slate.
Yes.
Okay, we're not artists.
Nope.
Okay, and that's what people have to understand. We kind of need a direction to lead towards some things. We need guidance, whether we're getting it from a creative director, an art director, whether we're getting it, from the market, whether we're getting it from the client. Like we do need some sort of direction, because I do firmly believe that the best creative comes from some sort of limitations, guidance. Okay. And again, the worst thing I think a designer can get is an open brief. That's just basically, that's why it's like the more the brief, the better.
Yeah. Yes. A detailed brief is king.
It's
or
king,
queen,
right? And
whatever.
that's it. But people don't realize. So we always joke about clients giving shitty briefs because they're using these big general terms.
Yes.
But on the flip side, if we get a brief that's very detailed, we tend to first balk at it. But the reality is we appreciate that brief, and that brief does end up in better results. Dude, like even history. Okay. You look at something like the movements, Bauhaus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Bauhaus just came
Great example.
in existence because at that time there was there was Art Nouveau, there was some sort of Gothic revival or whatever, where everything was so intricate and everything was busy and detailed. And Bauhaus is like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Right? It's too much.
Yeah.
Let's clean it all up. Let's remove
Strip it
this
back.
shit, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just keep everything within these limits, within these guardrails.
Yes.
Right?
And what, if anything, we want to do is simplify stuff.
Oh my God.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Right?
Like this is the essence of our core,
of what we do.
Yeah.
Another crazy example is the golden ratio. The Fibonacci circle,
twist.
the Fibonacci. Anyway, the golden ratio, is constraints. It says if you create, using this ratio, you will always get a great design. And I mean, it's kind of overkill when you look at the Fibonacci, the symbol, right?
Yep.
But the Fibonacci. But, the reality is it came out of, this need for constraints. Work within this system, you will end up with this result.
Right.
Look at grids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Grids.
Designers should live by grids. Massimo
Vignelli was the king of that.
Exactly.
Yes.
And again, it was all about, it was the grid that was like the underwear of the page, and it held everything in place.
Yes.
Right. So I think that, designers don't realize the importance of these limitations in designing, and I mean, I always go back to UX design laws. Okay. Everybody knows, I firmly believe that UX did stem from graphic design. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. It 100% stemmed from graphic design.
Sir.
And graphic designers now should use UX principles because, on a good note, what UXers did is they put all this shit out there, they claimed it their own, and sure enough, some of it's pretty good. But some of my favorite UX design principles are about constraints, are about designers' constraints, right? You've got Parkinson's Law. Okay, which is exactly what happened to your example about the logo, right?
Yes.
Parkinson's Law says the work expands to fit the time
timeline
available. Exactly. So if you give somebody 2 weeks to finish a project, well, that project is going to get done in 2 weeks and 1 minute. Okay, that's just what we are, right?
Guaranteed.
Where if you take those deadlines and you make them shorter and you focus, right? What happens is shit gets done faster.
Yeah.
That same project could be done in 1 week. Fuck, it could be done in 2 days if we had to, right?
Yeah. And this is why we're the get shit done agency.
Yeah,
right?
because we
are the go-to. We are generally under strict
We do,
timelines.
right? Because
And
I
I thrive
recognize
under that.
this,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's like, I know that you are good enough that you could get this done
Yeah.
in this time.
Yes.
So it's not like but if I'm like, Sean can crank this out in 4 hours, I know he can.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to be a dick and give you 3 hours. Right? I mean, if I'm like, Sean, get this in 4, then, we'll give you 6,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
5. So you can kind of like have some breather space in
Just a
between
little
this,
bit. Yeah.
which still is
That's a
for
lot.
the client, that's like, they're in heaven. They're like, holy
Yes.
cow. Well,
Wow.
I tell the client 10. But just regardless, right? So needless to say, right, that law,
Mhm.
okay? They have Hicks
Parkinson's.
law. No, Hicks law. That's Parkinson's law.
That
right?
was Parkinson's.
Then there's
Yes.
Hicks law. Hicks law says
Hicks law.
the more decisions you have to make, the slower the decision-making process is, right? So
Makes
it's like,
sense.
when you have all the fonts in the fucking world, it takes you forever to find a font. But again, Vignale was like 6, 7 fonts. No designer should
that.
ever have that.
Yeah.
And so what happens? All of a sudden, he now has to choose between 6 to 7 fonts.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
How much easier would that make your life?
So much easier.
Okay. I'm hungry and I go to the world's largest mall, fucking food court, and there's like 50 different places for me to eat. You know what happens?
Yeah.
I leave hungry.
Exactly.
Because I can't choose.
You can't decide. Yes.
But if I go to a small mall or something and there's like 6 options, you're damn straight.
Yeah.
I can pick one.
You're going there.
And I'll be satisfied and I'm going to leave happy. Like,
Exactly.
more
Yeah, you're right.
choices.
It's true.
Okay. So that's Hicks law,
Hicks
right?
law.
And then there's Jacob's law, okay? Which, and I've talked about this one a lot, but it's like familiarity makes things easier for people, right? So the example is, on a website, customers are used to seeing a logo top left and menu on the right. Hey, power to you.
Yep.
I saw a website today while we were doing a creative discovery session, and the menu was at the bottom. And you know what happened?
What?
I was like, I don't know why these guys don't have a fucking menu, because it's not, and I'm looking at the top of the page.
Right. Your eye goes there naturally because
That's where, because I spend 99.9% of my time on other people's websites.
Right.
And that's where they have the menu.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to fucking,
you're getting creative and funky, like, why do we have it up at the top?
Exactly. Exactly.
No.
That's somewhere they shouldn't have spent any effort in trying to be creative, right? Yeah. Again, that's something that is like, it should be, good UX, good design needs to be predictable.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, not experimental about that kind of
Nothing
shit.
like that. No.
There's other places to be experimental.
Yes.
Not there.
That is a constraint that's there for a reason.
Exactly. So you give yourselves, so UX has recognized these constraints.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking Fibonacci. We're talking grids. There's design. There's all these tools and examples out there that just point to the fact that designers work better under constraints. And that's when you dig deep and you get creative. That's when shit really happens, because it forces you now to actually think about being creative.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's how many times have you been like, you've had a task in front of you and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to fucking do it. I can only do this.
Yeah.
And I can only do like these 5 different things. How the fuck am I going to make this work? And you kill it. You knock it out and you're like, check this out afterwards.
But see, are we the freaks? Because I like that.
I love
that. That is the best part. We talk about the challenges, and the problem solving all the time.
Yeah.
But these are the fun things. It's like, give me a hammer and a nail and I'll build some fucking crazy thing. Right.
Well, no, I see what you're saying.
It's these kind of constraints that are important.
So I think the more experience designers have, I think the more designers will agree that, number one, that's the best rush.
Yeah.
When you're given a limited palette and you're able to kill it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And again, think about it this way. And I mean, from a software standpoint, I've played in Canva. Canva is like 1/10 of what Adobe Illustrator is.
Yes.
However,
you can do it.
And I'm able to create shit in Canva and make it look great because 90% of what I use is there.
He's right.
And
exactly.
that 10%, that 10% in Adobe Illustrator that consumes 99% of the crazy fucking, possibilities out there.
Yes.
I never even see.
Yes.
And I won't.
Yes.
I don't know if that is the right example I just gave.
No, that is good. Because what you're saying is you don't need all those bells and whistles in Adobe to do this stuff.
Within constraints.
If you had to work in Canva, you could do that.
Well, because again, Canva can
make it
do
look good.
the main 5 or 6
They
things
totally
I need
do.
to get done
Yeah,
and get a
yeah,
job done.
yeah.
And guess what? I can get it done in that.
Yes.
I don't need all the extra, all the extras, the bells and whistles and shit.
That's right.
And software wise, that might confuse a little bit, but the reality is, I think, when designers are given a little bit more strict guidelines, strict, limitations on what they can use, what they don't, what it does is it starts digging deeper in what, we do as a living, which is problem solve.
Yep.
Okay. We have to use our minds.
Mm-hmm.
We have to start thinking a little bit more strategically,
Yes,
right? And the ideas that we come up with are actually genuine, new, innovative ideas that we probably haven't explored with because we've never had to work within those kind of limitations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Agencies do this all the time. If you think about it, right? Agencies have budget restrictions.
Yep.
Okay. They're like, this is the job and this is the fucking budget. Okay. These are the hours. Don't you fucking dare go over this, right? So for an agency perspective, this obviously maintains the profitability for the agency, which is important, right?
Yes.
They put challenges in place because they know that the challenges put in place push for greater originality.
Yes.
Okay. And that's huge, right? This is when you start getting better, more innovative ideas. Okay. So think about this. Imagine if you had a fried chicken company.
Yeah.
And the owner's like, you know what? I need you to come up with a whole campaign. Okay. But you can't use the chicken. You can't use a chicken. You can't mention a chicken, but we're like Southern fried, chicken place. And that's probably what the whole idea about Chick-fil-A came from. Love them or hate them, they use a cow.
Eat more chicken.
Right. And exactly.
Spelled correct. Yeah.
And again,
that's funny.
Love or hate the company. It's pretty controversial, but
very much so.
The idea is, you want to talk about limitations.
Yeah.
That's the kind of originality
Yes.
you would come up with.
Yes.
Well, fuck, it's a chicken company. Everything about this company is about chickens, but we're not allowed to use chickens. So let's fucking use a cow.
So let's use a cow
that makes fun of chickens and tells you to eat
more chicken. Yeah.
So they can
Brilliant.
Again, right? But that wouldn't have worked if all of a sudden somebody would have been like, no, man, I want to use a chicken, or sky's the limit, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't start thinking that way. So again, when you have those limitations, it pushes for that creativity, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, agencies, they put really, really tight client, brand guidelines in place, right?
Yes.
Really tight briefs in place.
Yep.
And what that does is that helps build bigger, stronger, better brands.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it or hate it, the biggest brands in the world have got very, very strict brand guidelines.
Yes.
Dude, I remember we did work for Disney and that brand guideline was over 400 pages down to the size, how Mickey had to be represented, the minimum size the logo was in relation to everything else. But I mean, again, we still cranked it out.
Yeah.
We still created some really cool fucking shit.
Yeah.
Who cares if it was limited? It forced us to be like, well, this is all we have.
This is what we got.
What can we do with it?
Let's work with it.
Right.
Yeah,
and that was exactly it. Right.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, the better limits you have, the less choices you have.
The less choices you have, more focused you are. Yeah.
And the faster decisions get made.
And the faster decisions.
Because again, let's face it, if you can only use 6 fonts, I'm not going to spend a week choosing the perfect font.
How many times have you sat there and just kind of scrolled through your font list and like, no.
Yes.
No.
Exactly.
You try it and it's just like, fuck that.
It's so true.
I don't do that anymore.
It's true, right? And honestly, that's why Massimo Vignoli was so onto something. He's saying, this was limited. Yeah, absolutely.
And
so faster decision making, you have fewer choices to make, right? You again, and you're confident because you're like, well, I can only make 6 choices here. Fonts. I chose font number 4.
Let's go with this one today. Yeah.
Nobody can say you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because again, you've got like a 15 to 18% chance that it's the right one.
Yes. Unless it's Impact.
Yeah. Oh God, Sean and Impact. You'll get it one day, buddy. You'll get it.
I will, I swear.
Honestly, I think that the true secret to a designer's ultimate creativity, okay, isn't thinking outside the box.
No,
it's thinking outside the box, but within the brief.
Yeah.
okay, if designers have constraints around what they can do, the time frame they have, the colors, this, like if designers dig deep and they're within these confines, it forces us to think outside the box, to be more innovative with the way we think, to start exploring new things, not safe things.
Yes.
Okay.
Ironically, it's more creative inside of that.
It absolutely,
it's
the paradox.
Yeah, there you go. You're right. It totally is a paradox. It's because you can really let go when you know what you have to work with.
Okay, so because I strongly believe, and I think anybody who disagrees is dumb. No, you're all entitled to your own ways of thinking. But I mean, again, I guarantee that all designers would come out with better end products if they have some sort of constraints. And like I said, even if they're artificial constraints, okay, which I think we unknowingly
impose on yourself.
Exactly. Because how many times, and again, I've gone public saying this, I hope no customer hears this, but it's like, it's like I will have a project due at 11 o'clock, Thursday morning. And it's like, I show up, okay, at 6 o'clock, knowing I have 5 hours.
Right.
I have to do it. And I know, because I know myself, I have 5 hours. I crank on my music. I close my door. Nobody bothers me. And in those 5 hours, I create fucking awesomeness, right? Because again, it's all work. And again, these are things I impose on myself. It's pretty sick. It's a sick thing I do.
No. It's good.
But I do think that, we can even impose some artificial constraints to test this theory, okay? So I got 8 ways to artificially constrain yourself, which I feel will boost your creativity. Okay. And I guarantee this shit with work. Okay. Like, and again, this is just to intentionally boost your own creativity, right? Like, number 1, right? Give yourself a limited color palette. Okay. You got a project. Okay. And you got the theme, you figured it out, the direction, the brand, the voice, the tone. Choose your colors. Okay. Choose 1, 2, 4 max. Okay. Give yourself a limited color palette and see what you can do with that. Okay. Some of the biggest brands in the world only have 1 or 2 iconic, like Coca-Cola. What color is it?
Just red.
Right?
Red
BMW. Blue. Blue and gray or blue and white, right? Apple. God knows. Nobody knows what Apple's is because it's basically silver.
Yeah. It
right?
is.
And that's what I mean. It's crazy, right? You don't need all these colors. Okay. And again, so give yourself that constraint. Be like, you know what? I'm going to do this project and I'm going to only try to use these colors. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Number 1.
Nice.
Number 2. Okay. Try to limit your typefaces. Okay. So again, Apple used to be classic for using one typeface in some of their ads. Okay. The classic ones. Yeah. Maybe lately they went with a serif and a sans serif for some big things. Right.
Okay.
But again, they're really known, and a lot of brands are known for limiting their typefaces. Some people argue that you only need like 1 to 2 typefaces, no more. Right. Give yourself 2.
Yeah.
Okay. 3 max if you had to. Okay.
You got to have a favorite.
Right. Well, exactly. Right.
Right.
And find the complementary one and see if you can do that. Because God knows when we do web mockups, when we do brochure mockups, and we're like 2 fonts, that's it.
Yep.
Well, it eliminates any sort of choice. And it's like, I got to make these 2 look good.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't look right on a page, you're not going to fix it by adding a 3rd font in there.
Nope.
You're going to fix it with space, with maybe white space around it, maybe with size, contrast, hierarchy.
Yeah.
So again, limit yourself to fonts.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Number 3.
Beautiful.
I said this one before. Give yourself an artificial deadline. Now, by no means do I, would I ever recommend any non-psychopathic person to freaking come in 5 hours before a deadline presentation and do this. Okay. But I mean, give yourself a deadline of, 2, 3, 5 days before it's due and treat that as gold.
Yes.
Okay. Because again, creativity loves that pressure. Okay. It forces you. It's like a diamond, it's beauty comes out of that pressure.
Working at the newspaper, the daily newspaper.
Oh God.
I know it's terrible. The work was terrible, but talk about time constraints. Everything was a day. Everything was done in a day.
You're
like,
right.
These are kind of things that laser focus you into that sort of thing.
Like, I never thought about that.
I know.
Everything was a rush. Even if it wasn't,
I constantly lived for 12 years under pressure.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Now the
Wow.
work suffered, but again, it was limited. I had
Yes.
limited fonts. I had limited
You could only use
resources.
one color.
Yeah,
Either one color or
exactly.
full color.
Exactly.
Or
yeah.
the spot color.
Or the spot colors. Yeah. But
You're
but
right.
this is the thing. It's like these are kind of one of those things where I look back on that and I'm like, I'm glad I had that. I'm glad I had that kind of pressure.
That's actually
It's
brilliant,
good for you.
It's true. It's true. I remember, when I was working, believe it or not, I did work for an agency before Z Factor for a very short period.
Yes.
And I remember one of the projects we had to do was this crunch, and we had, similar to your newsprint,
Right.
had to create 40 ads in one night.
Oh,
Okay. And it was
shit.
supposed to be a fun night, and it was time crunch, and
Yeah.
we did an all-nighter, and they had pizza, and it was not exciting to do here, just for the record. They thought they were cool. That taught me what not was cool.
What not to do.
But the idea was they were black and white.
Yeah. Oh,
I could only had this one font. And it was kind of fun because then it was just like,
That's
I was
awesome.
like, resize this, resize that. And it was like, I was pulling back from like a lot of the stuff that we would learn, like, Bauhaus styles, but only in black and white.
But
How could
only-
I do that? And
Yeah.
it was, right? So,
Yes.
and it was a fun project.
Yep.
And I was able to crank out
Yeah.
40 of these freaking things
I
in
know.
one night.
I know.
Insane.
It's challenging, and that's the beauty of that kind of
It
stuff.
is,
It's not always about unlimited.
No, not at all,
Sometimes
right?
constraints are good.
Okay, so number 4, okay? Give yourself a historical design style. Okay.
Oh.
Be like, I'm going to do this project, but I'm going to try to do this project following Bauhaus rules, right? I'm going to do Swiss style. I'm going to do Art Deco. I'm going to choose punk design, right? Try. As far as the customer is concerned, they probably wouldn't know the end result, right? They wouldn't know, this is Bauhaus inspired, right? But again, we're talking about constraints.
Yeah.
If you want to see what you're capable of, okay, pick out a historical design style,
And
right?
work within that.
And work within those constraints.
That's
I know
awesome.
that one's a fun one, right? That
Ooh.
would really kind of test you.
Yes.
And I love that. I love that one. I'm doing that one for our new website.
Oh,
so
no.
I'm going to push into like a design style.
Z
and
Factor
kind of-
website?
Yeah, I think.
Oh,
Nobody go
serious?
check our site. It's pretty bad. But I mean, yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Okay. In line with that,
Mhm.
okay, another constraint, maybe give yourself a decade restraint. Okay.
What?
Pick something that is
Oh.
70s looking.
I was
Okay.
like, a decade to do this? Come on, Moss. Your timeline.
No, but like choose
Yes,
a decade.
a decade.
70s groove, 80s pop, bright colors, Memphis style,
Yes.
90s grungy,
Yeah.
dirty, David
Yeah.
Carson, like
Yes.
literally give yourself, maybe a specific decade style to go by. That's a different
Mm.
constraint, right?
I like that.
There's a world of constraints.
Yes.
If you're willing to give these to yourself,
Yes.
right? And work within them, right?
Yeah.
If you have to actually create something, like that actually has to get printed in the real world or has other constraints, maybe give yourself a budget constraint.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe you can't use a paid font. You can't use a paid image. Okay. You have to actually,
Do it
either
yourself.
force yourself, do it yourself.
Right.
Maybe you have to use just boring stock photography. Maybe you have to make boring stock photography unique in one way, right? But
Right.
no paid fonts, no stock photos, minimal print costs sometimes. I remember once we had a customer who had a very, very limited budget and they needed a banner stand for a trade show, but that's all they could afford you know what they could
One
afford?
banner stand.
No. 1.5 banner stands. That was their
Oh,
budget,
God.
right? I know, which is stupid. And they said that as a joke. 1.5. And you know what we gave them? 1.5 banner stands. What we did is we created them a banner.
Yeah.
Okay. A static banner, 90% of the material in that banner never changes.
Yeah.
And then using a half banner worth of material, okay, we created magnets, okay, flat vinyl magnets, big ones that went onto this banner stand, the original one, and it actually created 3 banners in one.
Oh.
And because of the material that we actually were able to use with, like the subject matter,
Yeah.
it looked like 3 different banner stands for one price. Okay. So, and again, budget constraint is thinking out of the box because they were like, dude, I only have a $1,500 budget. What can I do?
What can I do?
And I was like, this is what you can do. Talk to the sign company.
Yeah.
We tried to it forced us to get creative. The sign company said, that's a fucking great idea. They started doing it themselves and using it like their own idea to their people. But again, it was those constraints that made us think outside the box. So highly recommend that shit.
Yes.
So, okay, budget, right? How about mimic a specific brand's style? Okay.
This is
so
good.
again, you want to do a constraint, has to be Apple-esque.
Yeah.
Has
Yes.
to be
Yeah.
Nike-esque. Has to feel like something that Google created,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Go look at those. This helps you guys with your own creativity, your own research, discovery, but
Mhm.
then try to build your own within that. Okay.
Yes.
And follow that, right?
Yep.
Or last but not least, follow a famous designer's style and then make it your own.
Hmm.
Okay. And what I mean by that is, look at Paul Rand's minimalism, right?
Yep.
And be like,
Saul
I'm going to
Bass.
make this logo very minimal.
Yep.
Saul Bass,
Saul Bass.
bold, pop.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
going to follow this solid big colors, right? Fucking David Carson.
David Carson,
Fucking
yeah.
I'm going to make something chaotic
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
and look like it's about to explode and it was a mess, but it was
Yes.
perfectly done together.
Yes.
This is the shit that, you can give yourself these kind of constraints.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, sky's the limit,
Mhm.
but these are just eight ways to give yourself artificial constraints.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, if you take these constraints as legit, as
Mhm.
real, you will see your creativity push
Mhm.
unlike to the other level that you never have even experienced.
time,
I
yeah.
guarantee it,
Yeah.
right?
And the best part of it is you'll enjoy it.
Right.
Because, or you'll get to like it, or I don't know, like be freaks like us.
But you're right, though, dude. The thing is, you're
Yes.
right. I mean, if you're just sitting there making things look pretty every single day, right?
Mhm.
Everybody likes a fucking challenge.
Yeah.
If they come out on the other side ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And that's what drives designers.
Mm.
Okay.
Big-
Is we get a challenge and we find a unique way to get to the other side. And
Yeah.
God knows you feel like you just won a marathon.
Totally. Yeah.
Where you're
Yeah.
like, holy shit, I created something out of that. I was only given those 3 fonts,
Yes.
one color, and one really bad stock photo, and I created
And I
award-winning
did
app.
it.
I did it. It's true though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
just like this whole DeepSeek's company, they were forced with these crazy limitations, a small team, very little
Did you say
budget,
20 people?
20 people, like $6 million team, right? And substandard chipset.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, these are the limitations we have to work with. And look what they were able to create, which then makes you wonder if the other side was just so big and bloated. Again, there was no reason for them to look for
Yeah.
another way of doing things because they didn't have to.
Yeah.
They had no constraints.
Yeah.
Where these guys had all the constraints of the world and created something that has been talked about. I mean, again, that app is the most downloaded app on the Apple Store right
Is it
now
really?
because everybody's so fucking shocked. And I don't think they're shocked about the product because
Yeah.
the product is still, it's like on par with.
Yeah.
I think it's just the buzz around it is just like they were able to do so much with so little.
Yeah.
And that's what designers should do,
yeah.
right? You can come up with more ideas if you have less things to work with.
It's true.
Sounds crazy,
Yeah, it does.
but it's the truth.
That's the paradox.
Yeah. Constraints in no way kills creativity.
Yeah.
Designers have to remember that. It doesn't kill it, it fuels it
Yes.
because it forces us to think outside the box,
Mhm.
within limitations,
Within
that
A
brief.
bigger box.
But then it pushes us to a new level of creativity that we probably don't even realize that we have within us.
Yeah.
That's I think one of my favorite parts about doing what we do.
Yes.
I talked to a girl today, an awesome girl, college student. We had a great chat about, her course and life. And I'm glad that, we're not offending anybody at that in her school in that range. I know, right? But I mean, she's like, what is the favorite parts of your job? And, and it wasn't designing cool shit. It wasn't, I guess designing cool shit.
Design
It wasn't.
cool shit.
No, it wasn't. Right. And I said straight up, it was when you figure out that aha moment.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And you're like, holy shit, I found the answer.
Yeah.
You had a problem and I found you the solution.
Yeah.
And
But
it's
cool
better.
shit is the end result.
Yeah, cool shit is the end result.
Yes.
Through that.
that process.
Right.
Yes.
And that's what makes it cool.
yes.
Is
Yeah.
because it's not just looks good.
Yeah.
It is
It's-
so functional.
Yeah.
Right.
Problem
It's
solved.
to a whole new other level.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I think she was kind of taken by it. She was like the look on her face was like, cool, I get it.
Yeah.
And it is because it digs. That's what we're here for.
Yes.
We're here to design problems, not just make things look pretty.
Yes.
It's almost insulting, to be honest.
It totally is.
So honestly, it's like if I have to recommend you guys do anything, okay, try designing something today, tomorrow, this week, okay, but give yourself one limitation. One, just start out with one. Just give yourself one strict limitation.
Yeah.
See what happens. If it's a font limitation, if it's a color limitations, see how, force yourself to stick within that and actually follow the whole process through and see what comes out of the other end. I guarantee you that limitation will lead to something more creative and probably faster and more rewarding than if you did it with a world of options.
With nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. Go nuts. Says the client.
You don't want to go nuts. Because if the client says go nuts, you will go nuts.
You will go nuts.
It's so true.
Yes. Nice.
Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's it for this one.
Yep.
I think the point got across.
I think so, yeah.
That I think true designers, designers' true creativity.
Yep.
Okay. Comes through the limitations.
That you have.
Not through, a world of options.
That's right.
God, no.
Yeah.
That fucked up so many generations. I hope you guys like what you heard today.
Yes.
Please, by all means, let us know what you think. Participate in our socials. Say hi. Drop us a line on Instagram, on our website. And don't forget about our newsletter, the Anger Management for Designers. We're dropping a lot more of this shit on there on a weekly basis and setting you guys up for a better, more successful, more enjoyable, and more profitable future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. All right. With that being said, everybody, my name is Massimo.
My name is Sean.
Stay creative.
And stay angry.
Peace!
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign.